Welcome to Heavy Networking, the flagship podcast from the Packet Pushers. If you once racked a Nexus chassis by yourself with no help because you thought, I'll just empty the chassis, how heavy can it be? Yeah, you found your tribe. I am your host, Ethan Banks. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or via the Packet Pushers community Slack. If you want to join that Slack group like 3,000 other engineers have, visit packetpushers.net/community. On today's episode, sponsor Fortinet shares the concept of unified SASE. Now, if you've forgotten the acronym, SASE is the Secure Access Service Edge. SASE is a product category that takes SD-WAN connectivity and pairs it with a whole bunch of security services like Firewall as a Service, Cloud Access Security Broker, Secure Web Gateway, and Zero Trust Network Access, basically a modern version of Remote Access VPN. SASE is a robust offering that a whole lot of companies want to sell you, and in all likelihood, your business has a good reason to buy. Fortinet's a frequent Packet Pusher sponsor, and they've been telling their SASE story to us for a while now. The notion of a unified SASE takes it up a notch, and we're going to find out how from our guest, Nirav Shah. Nirav is the VP of Product and Solutions at Fortinet and is ready to explain why Fortinet Unified SASE is something you should consider for your network infrastructure. Nirav, welcome to Heavy Networking. And man, as I was reading about Unified SASE on your site and from some of the literature that you shared as we prep for the show, one thing I couldn't find out right out of the gate, which is this: is Unified SASE a product I buy from Fortinet, or is it more of like a philosophy or a design approach?
Unified SASE, as you well define, is an offering. It's a framework. But there is definitely one key part of that component called FortiSASE, which truly consolidate 15 different security and networking capability into one offering. So you're right, it's an extension from a lot of our customers who have secure SD-WAN to have this cloud-delivered SSE offering, we call FortiSASE, and combine them together is Unified SASE, because at the end of the day, our customers can have one unified policy, have a consistent security, and very easy to use as the users go.
Okay, so what's different about this compared to whatever SASE I've been using? How's Unified SASE a different thing?
If you take a step back and think about the whole reason behind SASE is I have a hybrid workforce, I have a distributed applications, and I want to make sure wherever my users are, they get this secure application access to internet, private, and a SaaS. Now, what happened is there is a lot of buzz about SASE in the market. And as you rightly said, the SASE framework has several capabilities. What is unique about Fortinet is when we think about SASE, the foundation of SASE is our FortiOS, the software that we have built over the last 2 decades. And within FortiOS, we already have several capabilities that you define, right? Firewall as a service, secure web gateway, IPS, DLP, CASB, and a lot more is already unified. It is already converged. So we're literally using advantage of the FortiOS, and now we have hosted globally for our customers to leverage as a service. So that's what unique about our solution, where we don't need to go out and buy those small components and stitch them together, but we are using the convergence that we have built over the last many years and now giving it as a service to our customers to use as they go with this global point of presence.
So you said FortiOS, as in everything, all the different security services that are bundled inside of Unified SASE are built on FortiOS. Did I understand that right?
That is correct. The FortiOS is the software, which is what we have been using now for Unified SASE. FortiSASE is a component of that. And at the same time, as you know, you talked about security services, which is often we have been powering using our FortiGuard labs, which is our threat intelligence labs. And that's what powering all security capabilities in a real time. So combination of FortiOS, which has those security capabilities, combination of threat intelligence labs, FortiGuard, which uses our AI and machine learning to enable those security capability, is at the end of the day running in the cloud and used by our customers.
Okay, AI. You said the magic word, Nirav. So I got to ask you. I
Yes.
mean, everybody says AI something, and they're introducing some kind of AI capability to the product, and so on. So you invoked it in the context of FortiGuard here. What is AI actually accomplishing for me in unified SASE?
Yeah, and we have to talk about AI, right, Ethan? So, but the good thing is, when we talk about AI and machine learning in the context of security, this is not new to us. We have been doing this over a decade now. FortiGuard Labs is our threat intelligence unit where daily, we are getting trillions of signals, which is where we use machine learning to process and find out the known and unknown threats. So now you can imagine customers who are using our SASE platform, where they have different security services they are running, they can get real-time updates to their threats related information to make sure they have the best security posture. And that's how we use AI and machine learning to provide the best security services. But we don't stop there. We realize the need of AI could be different, the use cases could be different. So most recently, we also announced FortiAI, which is an AI assistant to simplify operations using generative AI as part of our centralized management and analytics tools.
Okay, so there's two different ways that you're using AI, and this is actually kind of common to a bunch of different folks that I've talked to as they talk about the AI product sets. There's AI that they've been using for a long time. They're using machine learning and then AI to figure out something. And it's a model that you've had established and algorithms you've had established for a long time. And then there may be a new AI offering that maybe is leaning on LLMs that can do things like digest the entire body of documentation you might have as a vendor and make it much easier for me as an operator to pull information out of that documentation set using natural language queries. So it sounds like is AI more on that side of things, the operation side of things?
Absolutely. I think what we have done is in today's podcast, let's focus on one of the big use case of FortiAI in the context of simplifying operations. And you're right. It can ultimately help customers to do day zero, day one, and day two operations, simplify them. Whether it is in documentation access, whether it is writing a script, whether it is pulling some of the key information about the visibility and getting the reports, you can literally speak to it in any language, and we can use our FortiAI based engine to get you those information. You don't need to know every Forti configuration.
No, I don't. I think we took a little path to the left there because we've been talking about unified SASE, but this FortiAI thing kind of grabbed my attention since you brought it up here. Would I be using FortiAI within unified SASE in some way as an operator?
Yeah, I mean, think about when I mentioned at the beginning, the unified SASE brings several things together, right? That is secure SD-WAN, which is our FortiGate, FortiSASE, which is really bringing that cloud delivered security. And ultimately, to manage all of this, we have a centralized management. So now we are bringing that FortiAI as part of our centralized management, which we just recently announced, to simplify the across the stack.
Okay. Okay, that helps. That helps position how Fortinet is using AI and where it fits into my world as an operator. Another thing we haven't talked about yet that's kind of key and big and very buzzwordy is zero trust. That is one, if you look at the definitions for SASE online, zero trust always shows up. Zero trust network access, particularly, which I phrased in the intro as like, basically it's a VPN. Only it's a VPN with some other features. If you look at the NIST document that describes what zero trust network access is, it means it's a transactional approach. You're inspecting each transaction to and from. You don't have any presumption of innocence. It's like presumption of guilt for pretty much every transaction is how I would interpret that. So how do you guys at Fortinet deal with zero trust network access? What's your position?
Yeah, so Ethan, you're right. First and foremost, zero trust is a mindset, right? I talk to so many customers and they're on that journey where they don't want to provide everyone an implicit access of every application. They really fundamentally want to change when users are looking to access an application, You verify identity, you check their device posture, you check the context, and then you give them an explicit access. For us, that is truly, from a zero trust mindset, the first use case of that is that zero trust network access. But Ethan, we often talk about the way you do ZTNA doesn't need to be just using SASE. We think you can do ZTNA enforcement wherever you want to be. And what I meant by that is we have several customers using FortiGate as a firewall or as an SD-WAN, which is running FortiOS. Zero Trust application gateway is built in. Mm-hmm. If you're using our FortiSASE, which is cloud delivered, again, Zero Trust application gateway is built in. Or if you go to any of the AWS and Azure and you're running FortiGate as a VM, it's built in. So it's universally available. It's up to you where your applications are. And most time, the IT team wanted to do the zero trust checking closest to the application. So that's the advantage of an architecture where we can facilitate the ZTNA concept and give you flexibility of where do you want to do an enforcement.
Okay, now you just described the Fortinet box as an application gateway that can enforce zero trust for me. Is it acting as a proxy in that situation?
Exactly. So it again goes back to FortiOS everywhere, right? If you're a customer who are running FortiGate SD-WAN, which is running FortiOS, or SASE running FortiOS, within that the zero trust application gateway is built in. So the typical flow is you do need an agent, which is a Forti client, and when that Forti client agent you are trying to access anything, the application gateway within FortiOS is going to look at the device posture. So we have several tags where we look into those tags to make sure is the identity is correct. Are you following the tags that has been recommended for that user group? And if those things are right, this has been managed well, then yes, you are granted access. And that's where we use proxy. We terminate the connection, we initiate a new connection from there to wherever the application is to provide an explicit encrypted channel. Ethan, there's one thing though I think as an industry, we don't talk enough about. We often talk about the zero trust concept, but one of the fundamental of the NIST framework is once you provide somebody a connection, you must do a continuous verification of that user. And we do that near real time. Almost 30 to 60 seconds, we do keep checking, is Ethan's device is still compliant to the tags we have. If not, sorry, you will not get access.
And that is a fundamental part of the way NIST defines zero trust, is that continuous verification. It's not enough to have passed the security posture and now off you go. That's not zero trust. By definition, zero trust is continuously verified because, sure, you could be infected in the middle of the day. And at the start of the day, you were fine. In the middle of the day, now your box isn't. Now you're a threat to the organization and your access needs to be cut off. That's to me, you can't claim you have zero trust without continuous verification.
Exactly. And sometimes as you mentioned, with the zero trust, a lot of marketing, sometimes we forget the core principle. And I'm very excited about what our R&D we have built where, first of all, the zero trust app gateway is just built in. You don't need any license. You can just turn it on as long as it is FortiOS 7.0 and above. And from there, you can have these capabilities where you can do continuous verification with inline security inspection.
Thinking more about the unified SASE concept, you're basically selling me all Fortinet stuff is going to do everything for you. Well, it's all FortiOS, and we've got all these, common algorithms and engines across the platform, and you're just going to put all your trust in us to deliver this solution for you. Now, Nirav, I'm an old school security guy. I've built a bunch of stacks for a bunch of companies, and historically I would have done this. We would have called it defense in depth or best of breed back in the day, or some combination of both. And I might have had an IPS from one vendor and a firewall from another vendor, and and so on. I mix and match what my security stack looked like, and that made me feel a little bit comfortable. If there was some kind of an issue with one box, I wouldn't be worried about it being that way on all the boxes. But you're saying, no, that's not the right way to think about it in 2024. I'm thinking about it wrong. I should be thinking about a unified solution. Okay, convince me. I got some gray in my beard, Nirav. Convince me.
Yeah, so Ethan, I might give you a little bit of a longer answer here because let's think about from a two direction. Number one is today's network, and when we talk to especially both the IT and the security team, the two biggest problem is complexity and a cost. Yes, you can definitely have 15, 20 different security point products for all of those functionality that you need for SASE. But when we are seeing the outbreaks are happening, you need to now go and make sure all of those devices are up to date, have the right threat intelligence. It's easier for me to do. And that's where there are a lot of concern about how to reduce that complexity and start consolidating more and more. Now, the good thing is the consolidation of security functionality is not new. I mean, when you look at the evolution from legacy firewall to next generation firewall, we saw that. We have so many customers who ultimately consolidated IPS, sandboxing, anti-malware, URL filtering, all of this into one, right? Great value to them. But what changed, especially post-pandemic, is, yes, I have a consolidation and a convergence of this security functionality for my on-prem and a data center. How do I make sure that the same concept is applied for my remote user and a hybrid workforce? Because there, I might have 4 to 5 different agents. I have an agent for endpoint protection, agent for VPN, agent for ZTNA, and whatnot. So that's where the market started converging, and this new concept of SASE started emerging 2019, 2020, where there is an opportunity for customers to converge this functionality with the unified policy, with the unified threat intelligence across your on-prem as well as for your remote workforce. Now, you are right that when you think about converging this functionality, the number one thing comes to mind is how good is security? And that's why, Ethan, today you might see in the market there are 40, 50 SASE vendor, SSE vendor. But if you ask about the effectiveness of security, how big is your threat intelligence team? There aren't many answers. And we are seeing the value. Our customers are seeing the value because, again, I talked about the FortiGuard labs. We have over 1,000 plus researchers working on trillions of data to process. Where are we seeing these different threats, known and unknown? So tomorrow, if there are going to be more ransomware or more alerts, guess what? We are going to provide the most latest threat intelligence information to your on-prem branch, data center, your SSC, and your multi-cloud at the same time. Consistent security.
So what you're really telling me is not just why it's okay to have a unified solution that's got a lot of common engines that are doing inspections and so on, but also that Fortinet is differentiated from other vendors that have a similar or claim to have a similar offering. I mean, you guys aren't the only vendor out there that are telling that unified story. I mean, as you said, there's a lot of vendors out there that are telling us that. They've got all the acronyms. They check all the boxes. They want you all in with their solution. But you're saying, as you dig in under the hood with what's really being offered, Fortinet is differentiated because of FortiLabs and more, I suppose.
Exactly. I mean, today we have over 750,000 plus customers globally, and we are protecting them, making sure we continue to work and provide the best security. When we build a unified SASE, we did not go and just put together some thoughts and put together some different products. We used what we learned over the last 20 years and using that security stack. So we think our customers see value of what they have seen in branch, campus, data center, factories, the same level of security they're going to get for the hybrid workforce. So that's number one. But I think the number two is also, Ethan, that promise that everybody is giving about reduction of cost. When you combine and create this framework, are you really seeing ROI? Are you really reducing cost by 60-70%. We have customers who are showing that value. They see that. And that's very important because it has to both. It needs to give you better security outcome, but it also needs to simplify your operation and reduce the cost. Otherwise, it's not win-win for both.
Well, simplify and reduce cost. Now you are making bold claims, Nirav. That's usually that you don't get, reducing cost as well, but you're saying that is a common experience for customers?
Yeah, because let's take a look at the FortiSASE, and highly recommend anybody out there to FortiSASE is a SaaS-based service. It has a cloud-based management. And why I say simple, because once you onboard any user using agent or an agentless approach, this FortiSASE dashboard has 15 different security functionality that you can configure and go. And whether you want to do a secure internet access or a private access or a SaaS access, all of this has a common policy framework. So now, if you tell IT team about, for your remote user, you can literally have a single policy and a security stack defined for internet, private, and SaaS access, mostly they will not believe us. Because there are many vendors out there who claim SASE, but when you have to do internet and private access, is different console. So that's why I'm saying, Ethan, it's a lot of work, but having that unified console, having that unified policy infrastructure across internet and private access, truly simplify that. So that's one of my claim, and it's a bold claim. You're right. I mean, it's not just a marketing, it's about a technology which has been deployed and what our customers are seeing it. But then the second thing is, because of that infrastructure and because of the way we're trying to bring this together, if you look at the per user pricing, we claim it is 3x to 5x cost effective than any other SSE vendor out there. That's where you see a cost benefit as well.
Okay. Well, Nirav, we have a lot of engineers on this listening to this podcast, so I would like to talk through the Fortinet Unified SASE architecture. That is, if I'm an engineer and I'm trying to imagine how this solution is deployed, we've kind of mentioned along the way here, there's boxes running FortiOS that might be in a data center on-prem. There's some stuff happening in the cloud. There's an agent somewhere. Can we get more specific and start putting these pieces together so that the engineering mind can imagine how this solution comes together?
Absolutely. And that's my favorite part. So thanks for let's go and dig into the architecture. Look, the number one thing to deliver FortiSASE, which is really security as a service, is we needed to build a global cloud network. So what we have been doing over the last several years is we started owning our own data centers where we are running FortiOS, and we have also partnered with the public cloud companies where we are also running FortiOS. The beauty of our solution is our customers don't need to know whether it's a box, it's a VM, it's a container. We take care of all of those, right?
And where this would fit, this global cloud network that you've built, is there's some amount of inspections that are going to be happening between, on the path between my endpoint and whatever the resource is that endpoint is trying to get at. Along the way, it's going to go through Fortinet's cloud, and that traffic is going to be inspected according to whatever the policy is, and then be sent on its way, right?
Absolutely. So as a user, when you onboard our SASE solution, as I mentioned, there are many ways to connect using the FortiClient agent or an agentless. But our goal is wherever that user is, we want to provide you the closest point of presence or that cloud location so that you have no latency issues, but that point of presence has a full security stack which will provide an inline security inspection before you go out and do any internet, private, or SaaS access. So the user experience needs to remain consistently high. At the same time, we provide a full security inspection inline.
what you're implying there is, of course, there's a potential for latency to impact user experience because I'm sending this from somewhere, taking a detour, if you will, so that the traffic could be inspected, and then it's going to be sent on to its destination. So there's potentially latency going to the Fortinet cloud POP, and then latency from there, and then the inspection itself could introduce that. So to make sure that the user experience doesn't suck just because it's being inspected, you've got to have a significant cloud presence and a lot of horsepower at each of these POPs to be able to do that inspection without introducing a significant amount of latency.
Exactly. And you know what? That is hard, but being in a security, we need to solve hard problems. So over last several years, we started building that network, and as of today, we have over 140 plus such locations worldwide to make sure that we are providing them the closest location to where they are. And as I mentioned, we use a dual approach. We started owning many data center, which we do, and we use the full security stack there. We also partnered with Google Cloud, so we can use their backbone, and we are running the POPs there. So we are giving, again, flexibility to our customers, right? Are you a big global customer, and how do you want to use those?
It's very interesting that you said using Google Cloud's backbone, because if you're listening and don't know, the cloud providers build out massive backbones of their own to support their cloud infrastructure. And so, right, being able to ride on the Google Cloud backbone is a latency optimizer, if you will, depending on where that traffic needs to go. That's quite a thing.
Exactly, and that is where it again goes back to your earlier point of, at the end of the day, when users connect to our network, which is a combination of many such POPs, our promise is to provide the highest SLA, and we want to make sure the latency is the lowest, right? Because this is a cloud service, we need to make sure the availability remains high and the business continuity is key.
Okay, so we're talking about architecture. We've got kind of the level one here. We've got Fortinet's global cloud network that is going to deliver a bunch of inspection services for me. I think you said 140 locations globally. My on-ramp to them is going to be fast. There's going to be something close to me pretty much no matter where I am in the world. And from there, then the traffic, once it's been inspected and it passes and so on, it's going to get sent on to its final destination, routed back the same way, symmetrical routing, I assume.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. What else? There's got to be more to this architecture than that. There's got to be some clients, some stuff on the near end that knows how to route this stuff into the Fortinet cloud and so on. Tell me more.
Yeah. So let's talk about two things. The first is we talked about the POP. So when the traffic comes to the POP, and I mentioned many times FortiOS, but within that POP is where you get the full security functionality that we talked about earlier, all of those 15 components, right? If you want to do secure internet access, you get secure web gateway and firewall as a service. If you want to do a private access, you get ZTNA and a very unique SD-WAN integration that we'll talk shortly. If you want to go SaaS access, you get CASB, both inline and API CASB, as well as data protection. We also have a digital monitoring. So several components in one unified management. But you point a very good point, a question about how do I connect? And Ethan, this has been, again, very close to our design to differentiate our solution, because we truly think the way you connect 240 SASE point of presence, we need to provide the maximum flexibility to our customers. So there are 4 ways you can do. The number one and the most common is an agent. FortiClient is not new. A lot of our customers have used. Millions of those agents have been deployed out there. So we really use FortiClient and made that a unified agent. And when I say unified agent, it started as a VPN. A lot of our customers use as a VPN. Then we added endpoint protection capability. So you can literally do on FortiClient, AV, sandbox, URL filtering, and more. And then we expanded to ZTNA and full SSE. And most recently, we are also adding EDR into that. So you can see one unified agent doing all of this that could be used to connect to SASE.
So that client is doing those things locally where it's installed, or it is merely a path to get to cloud services that are doing all those services for me?
Both. So it can locally do an endpoint protection functionality, including the vulnerability scanning and management, which has been a big part of a lot of our customers do today. But then it can also connect using the same agent to the nearest POP to do a cloud delivered security as well. And later you'll see, we'll talk about digital experience monitoring. We also have that agent consolidated there, EDR, that consolidated there. So this again goes back to your earlier point about why do we say unified SASE? Because it's not just the OS, it's also a unified agent. So that's one way to connect. Now, the second way to connect is an agentless, right? I'm sure a lot of our customers today, they can't install agent for a number of reasons and having a contractors or bring your own devices. So we do support an agentless secure web gateway using a pack file where they can just connect to our POPs. Of course, SD-WAN is very common, and I want to go deeper into that after this, where SD-WAN can connect to it. But then there is one more topic which a lot of our users might find interesting is we also opened our access point, 40 access point, to connect to SSE.
As in wireless access point.
As a wireless access point, because we see there are these small micro branches which has few users and IoT devices, unmanaged devices. Guess what? You can provide them a local wireless, but you can also take that traffic and access point connecting to the SASE POP for a secure access.
So I'm a wireless
flexibility.
So then in that scenario, I'm a wireless user. I connect to a Fortinet access. Do you call it a FortiPoint or something like that? You guys are Forti everything. Forti AP?
Yes, Forti AP.
Okay. Forti AP, got it. So I connect to a Forti AP, and then my traffic is proxied or tunneled from the AP off to wherever it needs to go for inspection.
Exactly. I mean, we have some very unique integration, what we call LAN extension. But yes, you're right. It's basically that Forti AP is creating a tunnel connection to the SASE POP, sending all traffic there. And you can do two things, by the way, there. Not only you're doing a security inspection, but now FortiSASE also has a cloud-based management to manage the APs, the wireless access point. So you can now see why it goes back to unified, because that FortiSASE is not just about security policies. You can also manage the local access point and other devices.
Got it. So again, going back to the flexibility, I've got an agent, agentless. I can connect through a Forti AP. Are there other connectivity choices here?
Yes. And before I go to the other connectivity of SD-WAN, I do wanted to call out, and sorry for the commercial if I'm doing it. We recently started a promotion. So any of our customer, if they purchase our wireless access point 431F, we provide them the SASE POP connectivity built in for free. They can use it to experience this unique integration. So, okay, that's it. I promise you not more on that. So I'll keep it more technical. But Ethan, the fourth integration is very important for a lot of our customers. And that is about SD-WAN to FortiSASE. Now, of course, when you think about secure SD-WAN, Fortinet is a market leader. The way we built in SD-WAN into firewall, we have thousands of customers who have deployed SD-WAN at the branch and a hub at the data center, and SD-WAN topology network is working great. But what we try to do something unique is when those users who are not in the branch and when they're remote and trying to access application in the data center or campus, typically they use SSL VPN or a regular VPN. We said, why don't we use FortiSASE there to integrate with SD-WAN hub? So now when users are remote, they connect to the nearest FortiSASE, again, via agent or an agentless. But from FortiSASE, we can actually do an SD-WAN capability to the data center. So Ethan, imagine going back to that FortiOS part, FortiSASE can act as an SD-WAN spoke to create a tunnel from there to data center for a private access.
Now, would this be from a physical firewall I've got racked in a colo somewhere?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, because when you talk about SD-WAN architecture, I mean, the first thing I think about is the offices that have some kind of an SD-WAN edge box that's doing the tunneling everywhere. And in this case, you're talking about a firewall. Sounds like that would be doing that.
Yeah, and the beauty of our solution is when we say secure SD-WAN, it is actually running on FortiGate, which is a firewall. So a lot of our customers have deployed that FortiGate in the data center or a campus or a colo. But the question is, when I wanted to do a secure private access, other than ZTNA, you now have another option. The remote user can just connect to the FortiSASE, and from that FortiSASE POP, we can literally create that integration using SD-WAN, build a tunnel within that firewall in 5 minutes. And now you have a broader access to UDP, TCP kind of applications with an explicit connection.
Okay, so you really are leaning into the flexibility part. I mean, there's a whole lot of different options here.
But it again goes back to your earlier point of an architecture of simplicity, right? We want to make this thing simple. Today, I have a SD-WAN from vendor A, SSE from vendor B, but when I go remote, I have a vendor C. And all of these three are not working together. So you now have an option to simplify those technology with a unified policy, and these are those steps in that direction.
Well, what about my smaller offices? I don't. Maybe I need to be a little more careful about the hardware that I'm deploying because of expense or budget. Do you have a solution for me there?
Yeah, it goes back to that thin edge or a micro branch where I talk about an access point or a wireless WAN, a wireless LAN, where I mean, again, you have an option. If you can just put 40 access point and just a smaller branch, you don't have enough staff to manage other things. So it gives them the connectivity, and from there you just connect to SSE where you can do the full security inspection. So yeah, it goes back to all of those different ways to do it. Now, Ethan, I also want to make it clear, as much as we love about everything that we do with Fortinet Stack, we do realize there is a need to support dual vendor here, because some customers will say, oh, but I have a router or I have an SD-WAN from other vendors and I want to connect to your FortiSASE. Sure, we will support that. We will support third-party IPsec connectivity to our FortiSASE as well. Goes back to flexibility.
Okay. I didn't actually expect you to say that. But I mean, IPsec is common enough. I mean, I can see how that's done. But when you get into integrating some of the performance checks and so on to that third-party host, that could be more complex. So that you're supporting that at all is bold enough. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. We have to make sure we are certifying them, and we are doing and providing the information about the performance and latency. So yes, it has to go through its journey, but we are definitely, as a company, believe in open ecosystem, and as much as we provide flexibility with our own agentless, our access point and SD-WAN, we have opened up third-party connectivity as well.
Okay, so let's review our architecture conversation here. We've talked about the global cloud network that Fortinet operates and my ease of getting onto that. We've talked about SD-WAN as an on-ramp to that, along with several other on-ramps, agentless, and then SD-WAN tunneling to get onto that cloud. We've talked about how I can connect a small office that maybe is even, doesn't even have people there. I can deal with that. You've mentioned along the way digital experience management or monitoring, depending on who's defining that acronym, and that's baked into the solution as well. Now, that brings up a question of administrating all of this. So if I'm the network operator and I'm trying to manage this FortiSASE solution, what does that look like to me? I've got a central console where I'm writing policy and distributing. How does that work?
Yeah, so literally, when you are logging into FortiSASE, it's a central management where you can configure policies for different use cases. But the entire stack that we talked about, you can configure there. It is connected to our FortiGuard lab so that we are getting the real-time threat intelligence, as well as you can do the other networking capabilities like managing access point or having an SD-WAN on-ramp configuration and others, right? So yes, all of this is through a central policy. But Ethan, if it's okay, I want to double click on that digital experience monitoring.
Okay.
Because what is digital experience monitoring? Well, it is all about when user is trying to access a SaaS application, let's say example, Office 365, if they have an issue of a user experience, how do we find out what exactly is the issue? And can we rectify that and provide a consistent user experience? So to do this, we did two parts. Number one is within the FortiSASE itself, in every POP, we are now doing a synthetic transaction to many SaaS applications. So if somebody comes and say, hey, my Office 365 is not working, we can say, wait a minute, maybe it's an issue of an app itself. We see that for Office 365, the latency, jitter, and packet loss is this, way higher than what we expect based on our own synthetic transaction. That's step number one.
Now, those synthetic transactions are coming from where again? From the client endpoint or from something more central in the Fortinet system?
It is actually coming from each of the point of presence, those cloud locations where FortiSASE is.
Gotcha. Okay. So you know globally what your transaction experience should be talking to all of these major SaaS services based on your baseline, having a very well connected global network. So that may not be what the user's experience is, who's got whatever their internet connectivity is, but at least you've got a baseline. You know what it should be.
Exactly. Yeah, that was step number one, right? Because most of the time, the IT support team get a call saying, "Hey, I have an issue with Office 365." Well, it's an issue of an application itself, and we have the data, and that's why. That's one. But then the step number two is where you are going. If it is not an application issue, we also wanted to make sure that we look at the end user device. So what we did is the digital experience monitoring agent. We used to have a separate agent. We put that agent as part of our unified FortiClient agent.
Okay.
So what it does is it can check, is the CPU or a memory utilization of your device higher? Is your wireless connectivity bad? I mean, are those local issues creating that? So you can see all of that data per user in the POP.
And let's just admit it, digital experience monitoring is really about telling the user their local Wi-Fi is terrible. That's mostly what it's about, right?
That's a better way to put it. I agree. It's just this fancy word, but it's a better way to put it.
I'm oversimplifying, but
no, I love it. But it's kind of that. So now you can see, right? You can look at the end user devices. You can look at the SaaS application. You can also look at the trace route, right? I can look at what happened when the user is using ISP and the traffic is coming in. Is there something middle mile wrong? So I can correlate all of this data, and an IT administrator can just log into FortiSASE and can see all the detail. And we can say, okay, there's a problem because of these reasons.
If I'm already a Fortinet customer and I'm adding FortiSASE to the mix, what does that deployment feel like? How do I onboard my customers? What do I have to upgrade things? How does it work?
Yeah. I mean, this is a great point. Maybe let me talk about one of our recent customers. We have a very large customer. They use today FortiGate for SD-WAN and firewall, secure SD-WAN for their campuses. But for the remote users, they were using some VPN from some other vendor. So what they did is they started that journey where they continue to use firewall and SD-WAN for on-prem location, but they replaced the VPN from a different vendor to put Fortinet there. And that's how they onboarded FortiSASE. So now all remote users have a FortiClient, which is doing both endpoint protection and connecting to SASE. And as I mentioned, from FortiSASE, you can connect SD-WAN back. So now they have connected that as a one fabric. The end result for them is by doing that, they were able to save 40% plus cost because of they don't need these different products. They can simplify, consolidate some of this, and they were able to onboard users much faster, right? Which used to be a pain in the past.
Well, so drill into that for a second here. do I, as a Fortinet customer, have to license SASE? Is that a separate license or checkbox?
Absolutely. So to onboard FortiSASE, our cloud delivered security as a service, it is a per user license. So the per user license when you purchase, which comes with as low as 50 users as a starting point, it gives you that FortiClient agent or an agentless option. So you don't need to buy FortiClient or EMS and all of this separate. You just buy a per user license, which allows you to connect. It also comes with pre-provisioned point of presence, depending on which bundle you're buying.
Okay. So it's there. I have to license it, and then I can use it, and off we go. So if I'm a Fortinet user, that feels pretty straightforward. What if I'm doing a soup to nuts replacement? I've got a security stack from vendor X, whoever, or maybe it's multi-vendor point solution kind of a security stack. I want to wipe it out, and I want to go all Fortinet. What does that deployment feel like? Because you're not just going to do it overnight.
Yeah, it again depends on the customer journey and a maturity, but I'll talk about one of the recent win. We had a very large operational technology customer doing the coal mining. They have large factories and offices in US and in Australia and New Zealand, and the CIO had a very clear vision. They wanted to consolidate point product. They wanted to have a consistent security and reduce cost. So what they had was in each of their factories, they have a router from Cisco. They had SD-WAN from HPE. They had SASE version for Zscaler, for remote user, and one other vendor. And where they wanted to go is they said, rather than having firewall, SD-WAN, and routing from a different vendor, why don't I consolidate with Fortinet? So they consolidated with the Fortinet Secure SD-WAN to have a one appliance in a high availability to reduce those 3-point product. And remote user, instead of using a different SSE vendor, they also decided to go with FortiSASE. The fast forward, by doing this consolidation approach, they were able to reduce cost by 68%. That was significant for him to achieve to that highest vision of consolidation, reducing cost. But the end goal, what he likes is now he can provide a consistent AI-powered security for both factories and campuses, as well as for the remote users. So again, not everybody is ready to start that journey day one, but a lot of CIOs that I talk to now have that vision across having a platform where they go and try to consolidate point product and go to the SASE framework.
Well, Nirav, this has been a great conversation. It was nice to get into the architecture, nice to try to put all these pieces together. These are complex solutions. That's one of the things I think Fortinet and really all the vendors in this space have to deal with is just how complicated these solutions are and package them in such a way that they are easy to consume. And you have, of the various stories I've heard around this, one of the best stories of how you've reduced complexity for delivering SASE. If people are listening to this, they want to know more about Fortinet SASE, where would you send them, Nirav?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Ethan. Really, really enjoyed this conversation. I recommend two specific product pages. One is Fortinet.com/products/SASE. It has everything about what we talked today and more. So look out for that. Also, we briefly touched upon our unique integration of FortiAP to SASE and the promotion that is going on. So if you want to learn more about that, again, it's www.fortinet.com/SASE AP giveaway.
Excellent. Thank you, Nirav. Those links will be in the show notes at packetpushers.net. If you want to find out more about that and do that, click. And thank you for listening to Heavy Networking today. If you are intrigued by the Fortinet Unified SASE story and ring them up, would you let them know that you heard about it on Packet Pushers? That helps us out a lot when you do that, because podcasting isn't trackable, right? That is awesome for privacy, but does make it hard for our sponsors to know when you were paying attention unless you tell them so. Please do. Now, if you like this show, the Packet Pushers Podcast Network has many other podcasts and resources for you. If security is your jam, check out the Packet Protector podcast. If you like Wi-Fi, we offer heavy wireless. Are you a DevOps sort of person? Check out Day 2 Cloud. And there's even more pods from Packet Pushers, including Network Automation Nerds, Heavy Strategy, and Network Break. Check out packetpushers.net for our entire lineup, or just punch Packet Pushers into your podcast app. If you have feedback on this episode, including questions you'd like us to relay to Fortinet, send them to us at packetpushers.net/follow-up. And while you're there, check out our weekly newsletters, YouTube channel, and more, all free and ungated for you. Ungated means you don't have to give up your contact information to get a hold of anything we offer. It's all free for your professional career development. I do hope you're having a great week. I've been Ethan Banks. Connect with me on LinkedIn or the Packet Pushers Slack channel. And last but not least, remember that too much networking would never be enough.